Greetings, I'm John the Spirit. I'm waiting extremely patiently for 80 intermetallics because I do not want to do my bus until I'm absolutely certain I have tons of power, and I need the intermetallics for the oil burners that I'm going to make for lots of extra power. And welcome to modded Factorio Supershorts. Ow, I'm in pain. Because of the intense amount of syngas I've been using, I've been making an intense amount of tar. So I am using all that extra tar to make a bunch of carbon black, which I'll eventually use on rubber. So that's nice. At least I have a temporary excess source of tar, which will immediately stop existing once I finish making all of this stuff. Luckily, I'm only pretending I have tons of tar when I have an actual excess of tar. That excess of tar is coming from my syngas system, but technically it's also coming from here, a place that will never make an excess of tar ever again. Incidentally, it's also straining my port hot air system to the limit to run this much carbon black. But hey, it's not going to run for a long time after, and it was a good thing I had all of this backlog of hot air in this PyTank 7 kiloliters. We have all the requisite vitriloy and iron nexonite antimony special alloy in the chest, so now we can start working in the oil burners that these intermetallics will be needed for. Look, it's dark mode YAFC. According to dark mode YAFC, I need 8 oil burners. In good news, I just got a crash from actual craft time, which I probably need to disable for a little bit just while I do this. Before the crash rudely interrupted me, I was trying to make oil burners. I've made a couple of them. It's really nice to have all of this immense amount of iron in my inventory, around me, thanks to my lovely system up here. I should also make my small oil derrick, which I'm lucky does not require intermetallics, and get a bunch of wood for a bunch of small electric poles because I need to route the power from here over to the bitumen seep. The small oil derrick is not as pretty as I would like it, but it is what it is. It will require drilling fluid. The reason it crashed them on actual craft time is because it doesn't technically have a recipe, it just uses up drilling fluid. So let me explain how this drilling fluid works. When we pump in drilling fluid, the small oil derrick will slowly get rid of the bitumen seep, and at the end of that time, the bitumen seep will be replaced with an oil well or something like that. I don't know what it's going to be. The bitumen seep has 2084, I suppose let's call them cycles. The small oil derrick has a mining speed of 3 per second, which means it will get rid of cycles at a rate of 3 per second. Meanwhile, it's going to use fluid at a rate of 10 per second. So to get the number of drilling fluid I need, I just need to divide 2084 by 3 and then multiply that by 10. Ultimately, it comes out to needing about 140 barrels. I have 60 drilling fluid barrels in my inventory, which is about 3,000 drilling fluid, which is a little under half of what I need. So I probably should get 10 more barrels just to fill this up. Well, anyway, mistakes were made. This oil derrick will ultimately be really useful precisely because it will mine oil using nothing but power, as opposed to small parts and drilling fluid, which is what we would need to use a pump jack to just get oil from absolutely anywhere we wanted. One day that'll be useful though. After all that, I'm at 1258 on the bitumen seep, which means I need about 83 barrels left. I'm plugging them all in now, and soon I will have my oil derrick finished. Boom, we've got oil at the cost of slightly more drilling fluid than I expected, but it's okay. Anyway, now we need 3 destructive distillation columns in order to turn all of this crude oil into fuel oil. Alright, now that I have all my oil burners and destructive distillation columns, they are placed down. Water is hooked up with an offshore pump. Fuel oil is being made, the oil burners are burning the fuel oil, and now all of these steam engines are connected to my system. Amazing. Now I'm ready to start building them all, and I have all these belts already stockpiling just for that purpose. And by all these belts, I mean a very small amount of belts. But hey, beggars can't be choosers. The first stop on my mall will be producing an automation science system, which is comparable to the needs of the PyScience system down here. I am told by YAFC roughly what I need for this, and it does not make me happy with all of these silly numbers. But this is just a side note. There are other things we need to put into the belt, like, for example, making a substantial wood farm. The wood farm needs to be big enough to at least sustain this system, and eventually the PyScience system, and also this system. So I'm going to, of course, overbuild it, and also make it expandable. Again, however, first I need the bus. All this water everywhere is just really extremely distressing. Why do I have so much water? How do I get rid of all this water? I mean, obviously I get rid of it with landfill, but the landfill recipe is stupidly large. But also effectively gets rid of a ton of stone and gravel, which I don't actually have anymore because I'm using it all on stuff to get rid of it. So I'm just gonna have to maneuver around all of that dumpy water. Anyway, I'm looking at my map right now to figure out how wide I can make my bus, and as you can see, I am able to put down a bunch of belts. Another convenient fact about making a bus in PyAE is because I have this really large underground belt distance. So basically, I just need to figure out how wide it is. Obviously, if I stick it on the left here, I won't have a lot of space anywhere, on the left to do things. And my goal is to make a really wide, not like crazy wide, but reasonably wide bus, and have organics on one side and tech on the other. But obviously, these silly lakes are kind of in the way, so I need to pick where exactly to put it. And I'm probably going to smack it right down in the middle, but I have to decide based on the way this map works, which side to put organics on, because organics are invariably the longest builds. Now up here, obviously I can extend the organics pretty far to the right, but what about down here? Looks like we once again get a really broad space, so I think I'm going to do organics on the right, tech on the left, and hope that the tech builds don't get too huge. Alright, just checked in with the people on the server I was playing on, and it looks like the belt they have is about 90 tiles wide, which gives them basically 9 sections of 8 belts each. That's 72 resources. And if I split things half-half, that's like 144 resources, although for things like iron and copper, I'll probably want them to be their own belt. And this is basically how things are going to go until we get trains. Now that I've laid down a bunch of underground belts, I'm just going to pick the middle and then go 4 out from it, which puts me right here. Alright, 9 sets of belts are now laid down way up here, which I think will give me a lot of space to do this bus thing. Alright, the total number of fastwood forestries that my base technically needs to have right now is 9. So I'm going to build a system that works with 12, and I'm actually going to put it above the bus instead of along the bus, because I want to have the ash input be something that can come from the rest of this silly base, and not have to route an ash line down directly, at least for now. That would be preferable. Do not love ash. I'm going to mess around on YAFC for a bit using a nice little feature, which allows me to just add a recipe and find out what happens. In this case, I'm going to add the make logs recipe, and then what I'm going to do is set a fixed building count to 12. That means that this little number right here is going to try and actually produce all that stuff. However, as you can see, none of these items in the YFC are linked right now. That means that as long as I don't ever try and, link these items outside of what's going to be a little nested table just for logs, ash produced anywhere else in this entire recipe book will have nothing to do with the ash that's going to be, whatever ash recipes I create in this nested table. I'll explain that more in a little bit. Alright, I filled out this production sheet here up to the point that I can close it and see I only need ash, stone, and coke as inputs to make 567 wood per minute. Nice. If I wanted to be really funny, I could avoid inputting coke into the system altogether by making coke from wood and turning the extra tar into carbon dioxide, but that would just be silly. So I've got to make all these buildings, oops. And according to the shopping list, I also need an awful lot of trees. So many fucking trees, oh my god. Now, a bit of a YAFC explanation. These blue boxes behind all these items represent linked items. Linked items are items where YAFC will try and match production with consumption. If an item is created in a nested table, however, YAFC won't try and create that item and balance it across the entire sheet, only within the nested table. So, for example, if I ask for tree seedlings in desired products and amounts, it's not going to ask for them. However, if for some reason I decided to press unlink on the tree seedling while it's inside a nested table, suddenly this tree seedling gets included in the nested table. Because according to YAFC here, tree seedling production is currently linked, but the link is outside the nested table. So all tree seedlings that are not linked in their own individual nested table will be included in the general YAFC calculation. But once I press create link again, these tree seedlings are contained in their own space. Lovely. Anyway, now to make this. Into the blueprint sandbox. I think I'll just delete this. Now these 12 fastwood forest trees require almost a full belt of ash. If I want to extend it anymore, I'm going to need to make sure that there's a space for another ash line. So I'm going to make the trees here the top so I can route a second ash line along the side. Assuming I even have enough ash. Question mark, question mark, question mark. In the case that there is not enough ash, I can always just switch some of these to not use ash, which is lame, but works. It happens that we're producing more ash than we're consuming, and we're producing enough ash to run the trees, so hopefully this is enough. And hopefully I don't need any more wood until I can switch up to these improved fastwood forestry recipes in logistics science. Logistics science, man, seems so far away, but we're gonna get there. Since tree seedlings are gonna run up next to the farms, I need log inserters in order to take out the logs, or I can do underground belt shenanigans, but I've added some extra automation science facts to these labs so that I can research the long inserters from Bob's adjustable inserters. Underneath the wood processing units here, I'm making space for 2 belts just in case we need them. Although I only need 1 burner assembling machine, I'm making space for 3 of them and removing these 2 a little later. Because I like things to be compact, because I'm silly and I like spaghetti, I'm gonna stick wood on only one side of the belt leading to the 3 seedling makers, and then I'll use bob inserters near inserters in order to get the tree seedlings on the other side, and then split them out so only they go to the botanical nurseries here. Now the long inserters research is done, I can move these transfer belts for the moss farms down 2 so that I can make space for both money sludge and carbon dioxide. In order to keep the 1.2 per second speed of these inserters as best I can, I'm going to switch the pickup and drop tile position both so that it's a proper long inserter. Otherwise, if it were like this, it would have to change its length in the middle of its rotation, which would be slow. The inserters pulling out these wood processing units are split between far and near inserters. This build gets progressively narrower as you go lower. Oh well, now I can decide on a place to put it. Ha 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 ha. I don't want to put it on top of the chromium ore patch over there because it seems like it'd be an important thing, so I'm probably just gonna put it, I don't know. How about right, here. I must wait patiently for all of my tree modules, unfortunately. That's gonna take forever. But while I wait, I can work on hooking up inputs. Ash is coming down from up in this area, although obviously there's no ash coming from there right now because my entire system that uses my tin and zinc, which would make that ash, isn't running. However, these 2 oxygen furnaces do produce about an ash per second, so I'll take them. Since I'm also getting ash from this solid separator syngas system, I'm probably going to take the ash up first before separating it out. Anyway, now I have a splitter with output priority on the left, so I can bring that ash all the way up in a roundabout way. I mean, it's a mess, but I'll join that ash to the ash coming from these boilers, which now has an output priority on the left, so that not all the ash goes directly to these silly burners. I'll also get ash from this antimony oxide system, which currently isn't running because I don't have any plastic, with excess ash, of course, going to this solid separator and dumping into the storehouse. Technically, stone will now be our first friend on the belt, because I am pulling up stone from this stone mine up here, and I'm bringing it down first to the moss farms, and then to the belt. Look at that, how fun. Though, I'm not sure if I should have stone on maybe only one side of the belt. Actually, that's probably what I'm going to do for now. Wood will join the belt on the very edge here. It'll have its own full belt, since after all, these 16 wood processing units will make like 10 wood per second. I must decide whether to waste 270 kilowatts on a pump jack to produce water, or just, you know, an offshore pump. But the offshore pump would be really far away. I say, considering how far this is away, pump jack. Wait, it requires intermetallics. Never mind. Now I need to bring coke onto the bus and the system, so I'm going to set an output priority on this coke line into the aluminium here, and then the rest of the coke will come over to the right. Looks like coke's coming up. Coke's going to go first to the carbon dioxide high pressure furnace here, and then it will split off down onto the belt. Gods, I wish this would run faster. Please, it's taking so long. I think I can at least take apart the fastwood forestries now. Wait, what the hell? I'm an idiot. The fastwood forests I just kicked down already have trees in them. I don't need to make any more trees. What am I doing? Stop, stop. Your toil is no longer required. Okay, moss farms are powered. They only need the muddy sludge. Botanical nurseries are taking the extra tree seedlings I seeded and starting their, tree seedling creation. Okay, and our tree farm is finally starting to kick off. Wait, am I missing a wood processing unit? I miscalculated. Anyway, now that we've got wood joining the bus, we can do things with it, including make our automation science packs. But this episode is pretty long already, so that's going to be something I'll have to postpone to the next one. I'll throw together an automation science pack system between episodes. That way in the next episode we can focus on more interesting things like creating awogs. Actually, those require rubber first. So instead, we'll focus on interesting things like creating rubber. How fun. Who knows, we might even bring some crude oil up from another bitumen seep for that. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. For now, that's it for today's episode. As always, if you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. I hope you enjoyed.